You're very welcome to another episode of the Scaling Your Business podcast. For this episode, delighted to be joined by Rebecca Griffiths, the founder and CEO of Primis. Rebecca, you're very welcome to the show.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for having me. Good to be here and good to be doing another podcast. So thanks for inviting me on the show.
Delighted to have you. I feel like this is episode 183, so we're off to a good start.
Busy man.
Rebecca, typical fashion of the show is we start with, we wind the clock to go back to where you grew up. I know you went to uni in Surrey and then did a master's in Sheffield.
Yep.
But where did you grow up and what was life like growing up?
Brilliant. Love the question. So I am a Sheffield bird. I grew up in Sheffield. That's where all of my family are from. Northern bird that entered the South about 12 years ago. So now I live on the outskirts of London. But I've always got my Northern heart in me, like my Northern accent. I'm still as tight as anything because Northerners are. So, apologies to anybody who is Northern who's listening to this. Sheffield, born and bred, and I was born and raised in pubs. My mum and dad were landlord and landladies for about 18 years of my childhood. So I moved around a lot and I moved in different pubs and lived a bit of a life, which was good fun.
So you lived in the north of England and lived in pubs. That's the dream upbringing, that is.
Absolutely. I think I poured my first pint when I was about 7. So I remember it was summer holidays, when there's no time to go to bed. Every day's a school, every day's a holiday. And I remember my dad sort of saying, do you want to come and help me, pull a pint? And I was like, absolutely. So I remember coming downstairs and he was like, the crates, he would stand me on the crate so I could get hold of the beer barrel and pull this pint, and he'd teach me how to lean the glass forward so you're not got that little head. And I remember I was 7 and I remember it was like, and then every night throughout the summer I was like, can I come down and pour you a pint, Dad? And he's like, I'm not having one tonight. I'm like, what? You have a pint every night? And he's like, no, not tonight. So 7, I would say 7 or 8 was when I poured my first pint in a pub.
Holy moly. You mentioned your parents. One of the questions I like to ask guests is, if you go back and stick with that particular time of life, whether relatives, teachers for school, people can usually point to a handful of people that had a impact on their life then that helped them become the person they are today. Does anybody spring to mind for you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is a funny one, actually, because I've got like 2 things that will spring to mind. A, from a good perspective, but also from a bad perspective as well, which is where I've kind of got to in like now. So I think from a good perspective, like when I look at my parents, like we've always been very much, everything we've been given has been built from scratch. When mum and dad used to go into pubs, they was always given like underperforming pubs to go in and really turn it around, whether turn it into a really family restaurant, get all the scumbags out and bring in the nice punters, you know what I mean? And that was always their challenge. They loved a challenge. They loved walking in and going, wow, this is hellhole, but we love it. And we've got 2 years to turn this around and be the number 1 pub in the country or in the region. So for me, I look at it from that. I've always seen my parents do that. Yep. And I've always seen that, with hard work, determination, and a bit of grit, you can get what you want in life. It's not going to be handed to you. Very rarely things are handed to you. So for me, when I look back on my childhood and kind of where I'm at now, a lot of that has come from my parents, kind of, pushing me in the right direction. But then also on the flip side, when I look at things like school teachers and, everybody, they push things down your throat at school around you need to have the best education, the best uni, the best this, the best that. I'm all for education, don't get me wrong, but I remember a certain teacher saying to me, don't apply for A-levels. You're not going to get into A-levels. You're not going to get the grades for that. And that, to me, when someone says you're not going to do it, I'm more like, I am actually going to do this and I'm going to show you how I can do it. So when you said, like, where do people stick in your mind? He sticks in my mind even now, like building the company and taking no's, but it's just how you get knocked down. It's how you get back up again. And I always see it that way.
It's funny, the fuel that we use to push ourselves. Like often 100%. When I'm in a period about to embark on a new challenge, sometimes I think of people that I really dislike who've said something to me as fuel to push me through it. Or other times exactly. I think of people that I absolutely love as like, I don't want to let them down. You mentioned uni in while you were talking. By the way, shout out to your parents as well for the upbringing aside of the pulling pints at 7 years old, they sounded like grafters.
Yeah.
But I'm only joking. I wish my parents were teaching me to pull pints at 7. I had to get a legal job like at 18 to learn how to pull them.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Uni, you went to, I'm looking at my screen here to my right, if you see my eyes go, Surrey to study international business, and then further on to Sheffield Uni to do a master's in international business.
Yep.
Why did you choose that topic?
I think for me, I've always wanted to get into the business world. I've always wanted either to work in big corporate businesses or potentially be my own boss. Years ago, when I was looking at sort of that long-term future, I think for me, in the world of business, it's a module you can take anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world, you can take a business degree with you and go into a FTSE 500 company and say, I know how to do X, Y, and Z. Yes, university is a piece of paper, but it builds you the foundations to where you want to take your direction in that career. And for me, when I chose to do those particular sort of qualifications, let's say, that to me is because I wanted to take the knowledge and the information I'd learned and drive it into my career, past, present, and also future as well.
So with that, outside of uni, you got a job at Amazon. It's one of the first jobs listed on your LinkedIn. You spent just over 8 years there.
Yep.
Started as a sales director, ended up in a leadership position as part of Amazon Prime.
Correct.
So 2 kind of questions around that. First of all, from those 8 years jumping into the corporate world, was there any skills or behaviors that you got to kind of hone and improve looking back that you can tie to your time at Amazon?
Yeah, I think for me, working in a big business like Amazon is a huge achievement for me anyway. A big brand that everybody in the world knows them. I mean, to get into the doors is a grueling process. It's an 8-hour interview process.
Jesus.
It's with multiple senior leaders across multiple departments. It's not a let's come in, have a couple of hours. Do we like each other? Can we do it? It's can your core capabilities and you as an individual come in and make a change to the future of what we want to build at Amazon? And, I'll always remember my interview days back at Amazon, back at Holborn in London years ago, walking through those double doors thinking, holy moly, I'm in Amazon's HQ. It's crazy. So it's kind of like, how, for me, it was all about how do I embed all of that information into that around customer experience and tech and so forth.
What I was going to ask you around your, not just focusing on Amazon, before you move on to Primis, you've been in a number of leadership roles or led teams. From your time leading teams, is there anything that you learned from? So I'll give you an example here. One of the things I was talking the other day about a leader about was learned helplessness, and where people come to him and kept coming to him asking for help on certain topics, and he kept giving them the answers rather than saying, what would you do if I wasn't here? Or, go away for 20 minutes, work on it, and we'll come together and work on it, kind of forcing them to kind of get better at themselves rather than just feeding them the answer. Is there any things that when you look at your early career leading teams to the later part of your career that you look back with fond memories going, actually, I did pretty good there?
I mean, when I always look on my Amazon time very fondly, because for me, I grew as an individual there. I grew in business. I grew in sort of team leadership. I had a whole new respect for leadership. Amazon as a business, as much as every business has a mission statement or a leadership principle, and they stick it all over the wall, but do they run with it? Not really. They just post it on socials and say how wonderful it is. Amazon have core values. Amazon have core leadership principles that you are measured, you're monitored, you are KPI'd at. It's all dependent on your next yearly raise, the next bonus, your commission, the next amount of shares you're giving into the business, and they drive you towards that. So every piece of business work you would do, project, discussion, it wasn't taken lightly. And I remember, walking into several leadership meetings with a project plan, an idea. I've spent, days, months working that out on a Word document to walk into a room and there's maybe 10, 11 of us around a table, you hand over your document. And if the business doesn't believe in it, or the business believes that the customer doesn't want it, that project's ripped up, put it in the bin, move on. Like, we don't waste time. If it's not going to help if it's not going to benefit the consumer and our customers don't want it, we're not going to do it. And I quickly realized, I was like, what? Like, could you have not told me this months ago when I've been sat up all night doing the document? And they're like, no, because then we thought we needed it, but now we don't need it. We need to do something else. We need to always be innovating, always be learning, and always be learning towards our leadership principles. So I always look back on my time fondly, and I've always taken those core capabilities into other businesses, into startups, and also into the business that I created now, because no matter what size business you are, if you have a core offering and capability and a core journey and idea, you can implement that anywhere, absolutely anywhere. One-man band to 1,000 people, like, you've got to be really strong on what you're trying to perceive into the world.
Bingo. Primis, you'll do a much better job at giving the 30-second commercial than I will, considering it's your baby. So the mic is yours.
Thanks. So Primis is a customer experience post-purchase platform. So really, we're pioneering the next generation of what customers are wanting online and also offline in the final mile world. And what I mean by final mile is all about when the customer has emotionally, connected with the brand online, they parted with their cash, they're at home waiting for that anticipated order to arrive. Our piece of software delivers, brand immersive experiences from the moment of making that purchase to the moment that the delivery driver is knocking at your door with your parcel. We come in and build that entire end-to-end customer experience and remove that third-party tracking information from Hermes and deliver you a personalized, branded experience from SMS to WhatsApp to email to everything in between. And it's all around building that customer experience journey in a much more seamless manner than pushing everything out to all your third-party couriers and so forth.
I'll leave a link to your socials and websites wherever people are listening or watching this. But something struck me on your LinkedIn. It said that customers that rate companies with a high customer experience score, 10 out of 10, spend 140% more and remain loyal for up to 6 years. That blew my mind, because it's a lot easier to keep a customer than it is to win a customer. Absolutely. With acquisition costs just going through the roof, so many brands focus here at the top of the funnel, where it's light, it's fluffy, it's nice. Oh, let's do social, let's do influencers, let's do marketing, let's do PPC, let's do a nice advert. But actually, once you've captured them and you brought them into the funnel and you're at the bottom of the funnel where they've actually gone, okay, I've built trust with you. You show me all these wonderful things. Now I've handed over £1,000. And then something potentially may go wrong. You ring up the brand and then the brand goes, oh, that's not us. You need to go and talk to DHL. No, I gave you the money. I'm your customer. I'm not DHL's customer. That's your supplier. And that's where your customers are changing. Customers are getting more and more fickle. There's too much noise out there in the market for anything you're looking for. If you're looking for a white top, there's hundreds of brands you can go and look for a white top. But if you have a really rubbish service, you're going to go, well, I'm not going there. If you have a great service, what do? We tell our friends, we tell our family, we purchase again, we spend more, we stay with them longer. And brands sometimes don't realize that. They just go, no, back to the top of the funnel again, keep pumping more money in. You're like, hello, you've got your customers here. They're at the palm of your hands. They're engaged in your brand. Nurture them, because they will be there in 6 years. The top of the funnel won't be. Yeah. There's got to be some overlap in people's minds when they think of this. Some people might get confused between customer service and customer experience. And I'm sure, based on the face you're making, that's something that you come up against again and again. Can you distinguish the two for us?
Yeah, so obviously customer service is the physical part of, if a customer wants to speak to the brand, they're talking to a customer service agent. And you've got customer experience, which is all around how do you as a brand stand out from the crowd and deliver a true end-to-end experience. That could be anything from searching for you online, easy mobile app to move around. It's a 3-click sort of a transaction. It's not clunky, everything's seamless. That's all part of CX, right through to that delivery That is part of CX, right through to sending the product back because a t-shirt doesn't fit you. That still sits within customer experience. Customer service is still a department that feeds into that CX. But customer service is just somebody at the end of the phone answering a customer query. And normally, if we're having an unhappy path, we go to them. If we're having a good path, we don't need to ring anybody. So we don't use them.
I noticed that you've been hiring recently. A CTO you put up a couple of weeks ago. Congrats on that. And
Thank
digital
you.
marketing executive 48 hours ago or something
Yeah,
like that.
literally yesterday. Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
When it comes to hiring, you know, people can make mistakes. It's just part of business. Not every hire is going to be like the perfect hire.
Yeah.
As someone who's trying to build a business, what do you do to try reduce the risks of that? Are there any things in place so that you're not just purely going off, this is my sister's friend, I'm going to give them a job?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, really good one. So we started really hiring in the business at the end of last year, following our recent raise, and we knew that we had to start hiring talent. It's so hard out there. Hiring good talent is one. Hiring good talent on a good salary is another. And everybody wants the world right now, is what I see. You know, we are a fully remote business. We can offer all those things of you can work wherever you're comfortable, work wherever you like. My motto is do what you want, just get the job done. And we're all on the same page. So when we started to go out there and look for teams, from sales to ops to marketing, you know, I'm very, very cautious of it has to be the right, because we're still such a small business. One bad hire can affect all of us. And we were very, very careful of that. And, you know, being honest, and this will go out to other business owners and leaders, we've made a couple of poor choices. We've made a couple of bad hires. But we rectified it very, very quickly. I had to kind of remove the what's the word? The heart out of it and say, okay, I don't want to let this person go. But also, if I keep you for another 2-3 months, you're going to affect my entire business.
Yeah.
And I can't do that. You know, so I have to remove the emotion. I have to kind of think of it very business minded, which was hard. Don't get me wrong. But I had to do it in person. You know, I had to kind of be very much, you know, these are the reasons. This is not personal. It's just, it will go wrong later down the line. And I can't afford for that to go wrong right now. And I will make mistakes as we grow, but I need to nip this in the bud before it gets too much. And that's hard. But then over the last couple of months, we've made some really good hires because we've learned how to do it. We've now grown as a business. I'm growing as an individual every day that I look at this. And, you know, we're human. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to, I've gone into jobs that's been the wrong thing for me, thinking it's right at the interview, you accept the job, you walk in, and day one, you're like, this is not what I thought it would be, you know. But we live and learn, we move on. But yeah, with recent hires, it's just solidifying sort of the next process over the couple of months of what we're hiring for and what we want to achieve. Which is
congrats on your recent round as well.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was we did literally closed all that out in December of last year, and now we're back on that train again. Where we need to raise again? We're not urgently raising, but we are sort of in conversations with several investors to talk about you know, the next jump, the next thing. What do we need to do? I
guess it's good then that you're at home for a few weeks, because that is time consuming.
Yeah, I never knew how. I mean, I remember fundraising all of last summer. So pretty much from June right through to September, I was just doing this: pitch decks, numbers, pitch decks, numbers, pitch decks, numbers. And I remember getting off some calls, like literally like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. So I see why people go, it's a full-time job, and some people go out and get someone to fundraise for them while they focus on the business. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, it's crazy. It is really crazy.
So there's this tool that I've referenced before in the past in the podcast, and I drew it on the back of an Apple Watch thing. KARE, like a diagram like that. K stands for care, A is attain, or is recapture, and E is expand. And essentially, I just once a quarter I write down the accounts that we want to keep, ones that we want to attain, ones that we want to recapture, and ones that we want to expand. And then from there, you can work on the individual plans.
Yep.
When it comes to the A part, the attaining net new logos, what are your growth plans for the next 12 to 18 months? how do you, is it primarily introductions, referrals? Is it picking up the phone because you're an early stage business and calling people? Give me an idea of what it's like to kind of get from where you are to where you want to be in 12 months time.
Yeah, for sure. I think everything from now, everything from the moment the company was evolved to now has been everything net new business, as
Yeah.
in full on, full steam hustle mode, I call it. Every day is hustle mode. I'm always hustling for the next conversation, the next demo, the next meeting, the next proposal. And everything we've got in the pipeline now has been purely from me going out there and being extremely determined just to have a conversation. When I look at sort of the next remaining part of the year, the next 6 months, we are in some really good conversations with partners where we're going in and doing joint demos, joint proposals, where they're coming in with the, we're coming in to kind of support them, but also, it's going to benefit us in the long run. So we have a couple of those where we've evolved that over the last couple of months, where we're going to get into some doors where we couldn't have done it on our own, or if we did, it probably would have took us another year or so to get into the really big brands that we all know and love. So really the focus for the remainder of this year is getting into these enterprise businesses, whether that's through a partner, whether that's through referral, whether that's through an introduction, or whether it's just picking up where we left off a year ago because it wasn't the right time.
Yeah.
But everything to date has been literally building from the ground up. Every conversation.
I like it.
Yeah.
I read somewhere yesterday, and I saved the document actually because it was a big popular VC firm that said that going forward, early stage startups that want to raise money, partnerships will be a crucial element of. They want to see how they're going to develop them if they're going to raise funds. So interesting that you mentioned partners.
Yeah, 100%. We've got some good strategic partners who will open the doors and change our business. Should we all do it and we're all aligned? Absolutely. We'll be having logos that would take years for us to get.
Excellent. I love to hear that. A couple more questions for you. When this is all done, I don't know whether this is a lifetime project, this is a scale to a certain size and sell. You don't have to say anything, but when it is, and if you were to write a book in your life, what would the title of the book be called?
Don't take no for an answer.
Don't take no for an answer. I like it. I was thinking all you need is love on a dog. Because of the poster behind you.
Oh yes, or the house that this home has always had endless love and laundry. That's another one there. No, don't take no for an answer. Just because it's a no doesn't mean it's a firm no. It's a no because they don't understand the product. It's a no because you've caught them on the wrong day. It's a no because they don't fully understand what it is. It's a no because they just, it's another email. It's another sales email that's bombarded them while they're stressed out doing P&L reports or whatever. Just because they say no, I've always seen of just keep going, get in front of them, build that relationship with them and turn it around, because people buy people. You can have a 5-star product in the market and you could be an absolute dick behind it. That's my saying.
That's a proper northerner, that is.
Yep. But I could have a good product and be a fabulous seller and they're like, I like you, your product's okay, but I like you more.
Circling back to I don't know if it's secondary school or uni, but that teacher, you didn't mention his name, you don't have to, but to end things here with the final question, if you were Minister for Education and were tasked with adding a mandatory subject to the secondary school curriculum, what would the subject be and why?
So for me personally, and having a 5-year-old son myself, is all about life skills. At school, I never learned how to apply a mortgage. What is rent? What is a deposit? What is a credit card? What is a debit card? How do you do tax? How do you do your car insurance? Nobody learnt you that. Yeah. Nobody learnt you that. They learnt you RE, maths, science, geography, volcanoes, Henry VIII. They're all great stuff. Like, good for you. But for me, if I was to look back, or if I look at my son's future and what I want him to learn, is life skills.
Yeah.
And I just find that the curriculum doesn't hold that. How do we do a spreadsheet? How do we look for a mortgage versus, do you know what I mean? All these different things, nobody teaches you. And sadly, not every parent does understand it. So just because the parent doesn't understand it, then their child shouldn't. I think every kid coming out of education should have a foundation of what life is. Do you know what I mean?
I agree.
That's what I would say to them.
I couldn't agree more. It's actually one of the more popular answers. That and coding are probably the two most popular answers
very
that I
good.
get.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Rebecca, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I'll leave links to anything you want in the comments field, as well as your website and your socials. But for being my guest today, thanks again, and wish you continued success going forward.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.